Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Phil and welcome to Grounded, the series which looks at airlines of yesteryear. This episode will take a look at BritishJET. Established on September 29, 2004, BritishJET, or BritishJET.com, was a division of Malta Bargains, formerly known as Maltese I Holidays, for you see, BritishJET were not British, but in fact Maltese. The airline will be based at Lucca Airport and operate flights from Malta to a myriad of destinations across the United Kingdom. The airline's intention was to increase UK to Malta seat market by over 70,000 seats, with 60,000 of them being British tourists alone. Malta Bargains owned several hotels across the island, so this would be doubly beneficial for them. Previously, Malta Bargains had used Sabre and later Astraeus for seats on flights to Malta. The company's owner, Robbie Bogg, stated that at the time British Airways and Air Malta were charging around 180 Maltese lira, where he could offer seats at 49 lira, and that BA and Air Malta would have to lower their prices to compete. Speaking of competition, according to Robbie Bogg, it took 2 years for BritishJET to gain approval from the Maltese authorities, as the then government-owned Air Malta strongly objected to any competition. In his initial press release, he goes on to say that the initial investment in the airline was in the region of 20 million lira, and that once things were up and running, the airline would add a second aircraft to the fleet. BritishJET would use a single McDonnell Douglas MD-90, which was operated on their behalf by the Swiss airline named Hello. The pilots and maintenance crews were Swiss hired, with Maltese cabin crew. While this aircraft was painted in the simple but rather smart BritishJET livery, it would be operated on the Hello Air Operator Certificate, making BritishJET effectively a paper airline. The first flight took place on May 1, 2005 to London Gatwick, and flights from Malta to Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Newcastle, Cardiff, Glasgow, Norwich and London Stansted soon followed. Bristol, Exeter and East Midlands Airport were added later, and as you can tell, that's a pretty big ask for a fleet of just one aircraft. Several of the routes operated on a via basis. For example, Leeds to Malta would stop off at Newcastle to pick up and drop off passengers. This was a common enough practice at the time, as it would allow one aircraft to serve more than one route at the same time. I've personally done several of these modified W pattern flights during my career, be it in the UK, the Greek islands or even the Caribbean. The only difference here was that on my flights passengers would be told when booking. BritishJET on the other hand seemed to only tell passengers once they'd boarded. The sole aircraft was doing pretty well with utilisation, however it was stretched a bit too far and a minor delay could have a considerable knock-on. There was the odd 8 or 13 hour delay, but contemporary reports are rather mixed. I've certainly not found pages and pages of horror stories unlike those for Viking. The MD-90 had a 2-stroke free seat configuration, which was different to those used by the more mainstream charter airlines, great for those travelling as a couple. There were some complaints about the aircraft. It was old but well kept, was noisy if seated near the fuselage mounted engines at the back, and there was no in-flight entertainment on board. Meals were served on all flights, though again, it seems people either enjoyed them or hated them. Could this airline be considered Marmite, in that people either really liked them or really hated them? While a second aircraft never arrived at BritishJET, the airline continued to plod on until the end of the 2007 summer season, when it was announced that Malta Bargains were no longer continuing with the project and would instead use spare capacity on Air Malta flights. The aircraft was returned to Hello in mid-January 2008 and BritishJET were no more. So, what went wrong? The short answer is that the parent company decided it no longer wanted to have its own airline and closed it down. It certainly wouldn't have been the first time this has happened, however I believe the parent company didn't want the hassle anymore. Sure, BritishJET was sort of a paper airline, however Malta Bargains was still responsible for the marketing and non-airline operation sides of the company. By 2007, BritishJET had found itself on the receiving end of a lot of criticism from passengers. Some was unjustified, such as a lack of onboard entertainment, but others were the increasing number of lengthy delays and how the airline representatives handled them. TripAdvisor was filling up with complaints about the tiny airline, and in June 2007 more bad publicity came their way. A passenger travelling from Gatwick to Malta was charged £2 per kilogram to take his electric wheelchair on his flight. The additional costs worked out at around £160, and he was quite rightly aggrieved. This passenger happened to also be a local councillor and took his story to local press. BritishJET responded by saying that the story was indeed correct and that the electric wheelchair could be considered hold luggage and therefore chargeable. The Secretary-General of the British Air Transport Association commented that while most association members try to stretch their weight limits to accommodate wheelchairs, the fact was that a lot of electric ones are considerably heavy and the airline was within its rights to charge something. To be fair, he did also say that he wasn't saying it was right or wrong and that the majority of passengers are treated fairly. A follow-up article from September revealed that the Maltese authorities had investigated the company and found that the charges would be illegal under Maltese law. It also presented yet another headache for the company, as it was bound by Maltese law whilst trying to act like a British company. Malta Bargains were having a few issues of their own too, with the Palm Court Hotel featuring on the TV series Holidays from Hell on at least 3 occasions. The Palm Court Hotel also featured the head offices of both Malta Bargains and BritishJET. It would eventually be closed down by the Maltese authorities in 2011 due to reportedly high levels of Legionella. It was planned to reopen under a new name but never did. The Malta Bargains website now redirects to an online travel agency website. However, according to the UK's Companies House, the company is still in business. However, it just seems to be not much more than a dormant company, with some money in the account but nothing else going on. As they're a small company, they're exempt from filing detailed reports. What I will say is that it's very unlikely to see a rebirth of the airline anytime soon. Until next time, thank you for watching.